Every week, it feels like the presidential election could take a different turn, from swaying polls to court cases. And Trump continues to be front and center from the shifting campaign trail. Just yesterday, the former president was told he is not immune from prosecution related to crimes he has been accused of committing during his time in office. This is a significant moment for Trump's legal cases. What could the fallout be if he is ultimately convicted? It's time to go on the record with Scott Tranter, Director of Data Science from Decision Desk HQ. Scott, it's always good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So, Scott, a recent CNN poll found that half of Americans say it's essential that a verdict is reached before the 2024 election. Could this be the case that closes the door to the White House for former President Trump?
It's certainly keeping him and his team up at night. And again, that corroborates some of the other polling we've talked about on your show about how if he's convicted, there's anywhere from 5 to 15% of independent voters who would seriously vote or seriously consider not voting for him in the general. I mean, these convictions, these court cases, this is something that America certainly cares about, and the data proves it.
Moving to Capitol Hill, in a major blow to Speaker Mike Johnson, 3 GOP members of the House voted against impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, plus a standalone bill to fund Israel was torpedoed by Democrats. Is this a sign of hard times to come for the Republican-controlled House?
You know what it is, and in another life, I used to work in Congress. In fact, full disclosure, Rep. Ken Calvert, the person who introduced the Israeli bill, I used to work for him. And I remember back in the day when I worked in the Hill, you never put a bill on the floor, especially a big one like that, unless you knew it was going to pass. And I think the most interesting thing to come out of the Mayorkas impeachment is Rep. Gallagher said it pretty honestly. He's like, the leadership has known that I was a no vote for a month. And so I think, yes, this pertains to what is in the future. I mean, we've got the budget stuff coming up in a few weeks. And you know what? The polling shows that Republicans, Democrats, Independents, they don't like the fact that Congress can't get anything done, whether it's on the border, whether it's on Israeli aid, whether it's on Ukraine aid, whether it's on the budget. So I see some, I see some problems ahead, and I don't know that it's going to help any of these candidates at the ballot box as we get into primary season.
I guess you could say it's Speaker Johnson really learning on the job there in that vote. But looking ahead to the South Carolina primaries, Decision Desk has Haley trailing by just over 30%. Why is she staying at the race at this point, and could she be waiting for Trump's legal cases to play out?
So I think to answer your second question first, I think she is waiting to see where the legal challenges weigh out. And more importantly, we saw what she raised in January. She reported $16 million raised, which is more than the cash on hand she had when she started January. So there's clearly some momentum about her behind her coming out of the January showing, 3rd in Iowa, 2nd in New Hampshire. It was a funny blow on Twitter and all social media when she came in 2nd to none of the above. What's interesting is the way Nevada goes, and I don't want to put anyone to sleep, last night's vote didn't really matter in terms of delegate. It's really going to be tomorrow's caucus in Nevada that awards delegates, and she's already said she's not going to compete in that. So by and large, Nevada doesn't really matter other than it's, funny for Twitter, funny for social media. That South Carolina number you showed is really what's it's gonna make or break her. I don't think she's gonna win, but can she beat expectations and continue that fundraising so that she can keep it on until Super Tuesday? That'll be the question. But she's certainly banking on the fact that, a lot of voters are out there saying, hey, if Donald Trump gets convicted or if he somehow his legal troubles get more serious, they would reconsider. And that CNN poll that shows, 53%, that's nothing to ignore there. She's got a lot of good data points and a lot of good money behind her. But we'll see if that's enough.
Yeah, she raised $16 million in January alone, so that's certainly some successful fundraising. If you put Haley up against Biden, right now 53% of likely voters say they would pick Haley, with the current president only snagging 45%. Could these numbers also be motivation for Haley to stick it out?
Absolutely. And that's the YouGov national poll. When we start looking at the crosstabs in places like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nikki Haley plays very well against suburban middle-class voters, specifically women, a section or a subsection of voters that Donald Trump doesn't do well with and are certainly swayable both on the independent Republican and Democratic side. She scratches that itch, and she's a very viable candidate. And that poll just kind of shows it, especially when you get down into the nitty-gritty in some of these states, which is really how this is won, not at the national level. It's in these battleground suburbs in Pennsylvania and Michigan and Arizona.
But assuming it ends up being Biden versus Trump on the ticket, neither have high ranks among voters. They're essentially tied in decision desks' favorable ratings. Could this affect voter turnout, especially among those independents we talk about?
Absolutely, right? And we kind of saw it last night in Nevada, right? None of the above candidates won. That means that there were voters who said, you know what? I'm actually going to show up. I'm going to go to my voting place. I'm going to stand in line. I'm going to fill out a ballot. I'm not going to vote for any names on the ballot. I'm going to vote for none of the above. And I think that's a mark, an indication of what the rest of America thinks. And I don't necessarily think that most voters like who their choices are. And that approval rating you just showed up there kind of is the data that proves that. Either candidate's going to have to see that rise up if they're going to overcome some potential turnout problems this fall.
Moving to the current president's campaign, Bidenomics continues to be a top push for his reelection campaign. He has gotten a small boost in the past few months, gaining 4% on his approvaling of the handling of the economy. But looking at the past few weeks, his overall approval rating has dropped. What other factors are at play here?
I think it's perception of the economy, right? We have been reading about more and more layoffs in the tech sector. So this isn't the blue collar jobs or some of the service jobs that we saw at the beginning of COVID. These are some of the high 5, low 6-figure jobs among the 25 to 35-year-old crowd. And it is affecting not hundreds, but tens of thousands of people at big brand name companies like Amazon and Meta and PayPal and Salesforce. And that reverberates throughout the economy. I think that's what you're seeing here is the economy. Some people are thinking it's getting better, but that's not necessarily translating to Biden's bottom line.
And that's frustrating for the current president, for sure. We talked a little bit about this earlier in the show, but Nevada just held its primary without Trump on the ballot. The caucus is tomorrow. That doesn't include Nikki Haley. But what happened and why in the primary last night, if you could go into more detail on that?
Yeah, so it's a lot of drama. It could be a reality show around how the Nevada GOP operates and how they choose their candidates. Nevada as a state has to run a primary, so they ran it last night. But the Nevada GOP said, fine, if the state is gonna run a primary, you can run it. You can have candidates can apply there, but we're only gonna award our delegates to the people who actually caucus with us. And so while there was an election last night, and it was state run, it was official, those results are real, those voters are real, and none of the above won. Haley came in second. Donald Trump decided not to run in that one. He decided to run in the caucus that is being run by the state party tomorrow. And the reason why he decided on that one is because that's where the delegates are awarded. Nikki Haley decided not to participate in that one, so she won't be on the ballot. But what you're looking at there is some internal turmoil, internal drama in the Republican National Party, and it's interesting to watch. But the only thing of consequence is the delegates are awarded tomorrow. Nikki Haley's not eligible for any of them. It looks like Donald Trump's going to get all of them.
And that's only going to boost him going further. Scott Tranter, Thank you for joining us from a beautiful Washington, D.C. skyline.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. That's it for What's America Thinking. Come back next time. I'm Julia Manchester, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel. Also, we want to hear from you. Leave your comments and let us know what has you fired up in your region of the country.